Hi, my name is Brenda McGee, and this is Paranormal Encounters. I have a very special guest today, and if you've ever wondered about demonology, what equipment paranormal investigators use, this is a show you're not going to want to miss. Welcome. I'm happy to introduce my guest, Steve McLaughlin, who is a paranormal investigator and also studies demonology. Hi, Steve. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Brenda.
All right, Steve. So what I want to really talk about is, I know you've been studying demonology for a long time, and we incorporate this. We do have a team, but we also have a separate team also that does blessings and things like that.
Yes.
So can you please tell us about demonology so people can learn about it?
It basically is the study of demons. Demons originally were angels that made a bad choice. They were thrown out, and they don't like us very much because we can go back to where they were. So they try everything they can to prohibit us from going back there. And they can destroy people's lives. They're very angry, hateful things. And a lot of times people will get involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in, say Ouija boards or different seances, like those kind of practices, open a doorway that normally is closed, and then they get in.
Right.
It may take time. It may not be like, well, I used a Ouija board and nothing happened. Well, it may not immediately happen, but it could years from now when you're in a vulnerable state, a depression or things are going bad. That's when they work in.
And that's what people don't understand is yes, they sell the board in a toy store, but it's the act of summoning that is the key, and that's what causes the issues.
Yes, and I'll use this as a kind of a prop. If you use this, the planchette on a Ouija board, you're touching the planchette, and they have to touch you, so you're opening your body up for that spirit. If they try to enter you, they break your will down to enter. And such as this PX, it's a device that it says words and mnemons so that spirits can talk through it. But also, if you're using this equipment, you're opening yourself up to other things as well. So it may not be Aunt Martha that's talking to you. It may be a demon that's posing as Aunt Martha and knows what the information is. And you think it's Aunt Martha, you're talking.
Right.
Hey, Aunt Martha's here, but it's not.
Yeah, and they do. They always come up through as a family member.
Yes.
Or a friend that you lost.
Yes.
So then they reel you in, and they're like, hey, play with me some more.
Yes, well, you got a little child's voice in there, and be afraid.
Right.
Because I don't trust child ghosts, as you know.
Right,
Yes.
and a lot of situations that we've had and that we've come across where, they've been saying, oh, it's a little child that we see or something like that. Not saying that if you see a child ghost that it's demonic or anything like that, but we know better sometimes.
Yes. How many times have we been in a place where, oh, it's just a little kid, and we see what it is.
Right.
And it's not a little kid.
Right. Now, Steve, how can we educate people on what they should do, what they shouldn't do, and how they can protect themselves, or even, before they call us in?
The best way is don't use Ouija boards. Don't do seances. Don't use equipment like this on an investigation unless you know what you're doing, how to open and close. We always open up with a prayer for protection.
Right.
And we always close with a prayer of protection.
And what's funny is a lot of teams don't do that. But with our team, we always make it the beginning and the end, and it's important.
Sometimes I'll do it while I'm doing it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or if we don't feel right or something like that, it's something that people need to know. It's not just something you see on TV.
What I do with my equipment also is all this equipment is all blessed with holy water and holy oil so that a demonic entity can't get through it to attach. It closes the doorway.
Now, Steve, can you explain some of the cases that we've had? Or that you can talk about anyway, some of them.
I remember one case we had done, it was an incubus. And I think that was in Fall River?
Yes.
Yes, and I remember we had played the the ovilus during that investigation, and he was saying some pretty bad things about us.
Right.
Yes.
And now we do want to, could you explain what an incubus is? Because we can say it and they won't know, oh, what's that?
Well, there's different levels of demons, and they all have their own personalities, like humans do. So one demon may be, he likes to make people gamble. An incubus is one who attacks in a sexual manner. Incubus would be for a female, succubus for a male.
Okay.
And this was attacking her and causing her great harm. When we went in and we got rid of that, I remember when we left, it was sunny out. We got up there, it was all thunder and lightning.
Right, I remember that.
I was coming up Route 24 afterwards, and a vehicle pulled off the side right in front of me. I had to swerve 3 or 4 times to right my car up. And that happens a lot because they are very vengeful creatures.
Right, and they know. It's funny because they know when we're coming.
Yes.
Like I'll have a dream maybe a couple of days or even a week before, and I'll call you and you'll say, okay, tell me about the dream, and then we'll talk about it.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden we'll say something's coming. Or even if we didn't have a dream, we'll feel something's coming, and sure enough, we'll get the call.
Yeah, we're always on the same page.
And unfortunately, because you do the prayer part of it, a lot of times you're the one that gets most of the repercussions for it.
Usually I'll do 3 days of prayer and a day of fasting before I even go in. That's how serious this is because if there's a kink in the armor, they'll get in.
Right.
And a lot of their attack is psychological, but it can be physical too.
Right.
I remember before I did a blessing, I had been pushed off a dumpster.
Yes.
And I had hurt my wrist. I was sore for a year.
Yeah.
But
and sick.
Yeah, I was sick. I got pneumonia. In fact, I was in the hospital. And do you remember with that other case, we had done a blessing. And she was at a wedding I attended. And
yes.
Yes, and she said, I heard you were sick, when she wouldn't have known it.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Because you know, we don't just deal with, blessings and things like that. We've had to do exorcisms and stuff.
Yes, we have. We've done those too.
And some without us even knowing.
Yeah. A lot of times it starts off as just a blessing in the house, and then we find out it's more than that. We have to do a deliverance on a person.
Right.
And they're very egotistical creatures. They're very powerful. They're angels. Right. They're very intelligent. They can't read minds, but they can make pretty good guesses of what you're doing.
Right. Now, Steve, what would someone do, like, say, before they called us? What steps could they do beforehand, and if it didn't work, could call, and let us know?
Oh, my prayers are Christian-based. So if I could make a suggestion, if anybody, if they were Catholic, they could go to church, they could go to confession, get communion. That will end a lot of things. Any other Christian or even a regular person, they can say prayers to get rid of. The big thing is don't be bullied by it.
Right.
If you stand up to them, a lot of times they will leave.
Right.
But this is incense, frankincense and myrrh, and it's very powerful because that is when the Magi came to the birth of Christ, they brought frankincense and myrrh. So symbolically, they know what that is, the demon, and they don't want to be around it.
Right. So it actually, when they smell that or know you're burning that, it doesn't feel good to them.
No. I had one, when I was lighted up, I had a voice in my head said, not the smoke. Please don't use the smoke.
Right.
They hate it. But it's only particular smoke.
Right.
If you use sage, you might pacify them, but it's not going to do a lot.
And that's what I tell a lot of people, that sage is more of, like, say you're arguing, you're sick, it clears that kind of energy.
Yes.
But when you feel something negative or something stagnant in your house, I always tell people, use frankincense and myrrh, because it not only gets rid of, it brings good in also.
Yes, it also, exactly, good point. It brings the good in.
Right.
That's what you want.
Now, what is something else? I know that we use St. Benedictine metals. So I do tell people, to use those. Can you tell me why the St. Benedictine metal?
St. Benedict was a monk probably a few hundred years ago that used to have a constant battle with Satan. He could see him, he battled him. So the metal, they made from him because he had a religious order that he taught how to be very spiritual.
Okay.
And that spirituality carried over to when they made the metal, there's Latin things that are blessing against storms, blessing against demons. It's an exorcism on it to drive out demons. It protects against witchcraft, poisons. It causes healings. It's probably the most powerful metal in the Catholic Church. And it has to have a particular blessing on it. You just can't use it.
Right.
It's going to be blessed in a certain way.
Right.
But good.
Now, what I wanted to say is, now when you go in and do blessings, what are some of the things that you use to do the blessing with?
First thing we do prayers. And then I'll do a house exorcism prayer. Once that's done, and you've seen that, that's the hardest part.
That is.
Because sometimes they'll try to make me stop talking.
Yes, and that happens a lot.
Yeah. But when you've been with me, we go upstairs, we have the St. Benedict medal. I'll do a blessing with that. We place it in closets because they love to hide in closets, attics, and cellars.
Yes.
So we put a medal everywhere in the house because it keeps them out. Now we use salt because salt is a preservative. So it preserves the goodness in the house. It preserves the person's faith. It makes them a good face. Then they're not bad looking anymore.
Right.
Then I use holy water, which is incredibly important. I use holy water, and this is special water. It's not just holy water you get out of your church. This is blessed by a priest with nice blessing on it. It's got salt in it. It's got holy oil in it, not sacramental oil. I have to specify that. It's just holy oil that's been blessed.
Right.
But in the church, we have things called relics. That's parts of saints. So when you're there, the saint will be with you also. But this has been touched to 167 different saints' relics.
Wow.
So when that's used, they're also there to drive the evil out. Because we don't drive it out. It has to be a higher power that drives it out.
Right.
Whatever your higher power could be.
Right. So, and I know we've done many. And it seems like the more cases that we get, the more extreme they are.
Yes.
So what that tells us is people really need to pay attention to what they're doing. I even tell them, like even when we do the oils, people don't realize we do every window. We have to do every mirror.
Yes.
It's very important that we stay focused and we do the whole thing. And it's just not something... Yes, people can do it if they have the right tools to do it with, and they have the right intention to do it with.
Right intention means a lot, yes.
Yes, and you have to believe in a higher power.
Yes, if you're not believing in a higher power, they're not leaving.
Right.
Because they're a higher power than you are. You need a power greater than they are to get rid of it.
Right.
I can go in there alone and do something, they're not going to leave because they're not afraid of me.
Right.
They're afraid of what's coming with us.
Right, and the prayers, I mean.
Yes.
You know, I always tell people, you know, if you have a medal or whatever, just wear it at all times because anything negative or evil does not like that medal.
No, it will flee. It causes them pain and suffering. It's we feel physical pain, but demons are a psychological being. Holy water, why that works is when they made the choice to separate, holy water brings them back to that point when they made that choice. And the pain it causes their mind, they want to get away from it. It's like if you're in a bad relationship and you mention that name, oh, I don't want to see her again.
Right.
You know, it's the same thing. They don't want to be around it.
Now, I want to go to one of the experiences that we first had. Well, I shouldn't say first had, but one of where I truly saw, you know, what it was that, because you and we have another team, you know, another team member that does the blessings in exorcism and things like that with us. But I remember, you know, how we do our prayers and things. Well, we were both on another team, not the one that we're on now.
Yes.
And we went to a place. And one of the people that were there actually was jumped into.
Oh, yes.
And I remember because I knew that once I had left, we're always in protection mode. And you and I always are able to protect because of what we do.
Yes.
So I remember you were in another part of the house, and all of a sudden the camera shut down. And then, you know, that person was jumped into. I will never forget that. I think that was a reality check for me that this stuff is real. But I remember people holding him down.
3 people at least.
3 people at least. Now, there were other team members who aren't part of our blessing team. and they're not even part of the team or whatever. But I remember that they were getting physically hurt.
Yes.
Except for you and I. Even though I was holding the arm to keep him, he couldn't hurt me.
No.
But yet he was, with one hand, throwing people. And I will never forget, that was like the most intense, but you never lost focus and you just kept going. And I think that was probably the worst case that we had.
That took about
we saw
an hour.
A half an hour.
That was 3 demons.
Yeah. And I will never forget that. I actually remember after that, I think I took a month off of not doing anything because I was like, do I really want to get into something like this?
Yeah, that was pretty intense. I remember one of the symptoms when that happens is the eyes roll up.
Yes.
So you see the white of the eye. I went over to this person and I put a relic on his head and he looked and it was the whites of the eyes and I went, oh, okay, here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. I remember first putting holy water on him and he started writhing like a snake.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And then he went to grab me, and you grabbed his arm, said,
yeah,
no.
Right. And he didn't fight me. He just, and yeah, that was crazy.
It's a point I want to make because that's a good point. It's because you and I are protected. Mm-hmm. We're called to do this ministry. The higher power protects us from harm.
Right.
If you aren't called to do this, and you try to do that, you could get severely hurt.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't.
And I have to say this, and you know what? I'm going to put it out there. When I first started, with the team, you and I had first met and all, I remember you were not there. And I had witnessed what you had done with the medals. And I remember this person was with me, and he got jumped into. You were not there. And I actually started praying, but I worded it incorrectly. And I said I instead of, God or he.
Yeah, someone else.
And I did get visited. And I tell people this story. I got visited that night. You're not going to believe me, but this is what happened. This is what happens, people.
Yeah.
There was a cloaked figure in my bedroom on my husband's side. And I woke up because I felt something, because I'm an empath, so I do feel things like that. And I started praying, an angel came down, lit up the whole room, and took it out there. But I always remembered, don't do things that you are not, supposed to do. And after that, I let you do it. But then when we started doing it, I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's because our God, I'll call him God, he protects us from harm a lot.
Right.
He puts a leash on them. But if you're not called to it, if you're not in a relationship with a higher power like that, it could be devastating.
And I tell people, it's funny because some people don't believe in God, Creator, whatever you want to say, but they believe in Archangel Michael. And I tell them, as long as you believe in something.
Because that's the power comes from him.
Yeah,
anyway,
because that's the first thing that I ask, what do you believe in? And you have to believe in something. I know it doesn't have to be God, whatever you feel, as long as you believe in something. And I always say that because I had this one person that had come in and she was like, I went to this place and I wanted to help the spirit. And I said, well, what do you believe in? And she said, I don't believe in anything. And I said to her, do you know you could be harming a spirit, even though it's a spirit? Mm-hmm. Where would you send the spirit? To help him leave where he was. Where would you send him?
Exactly.
And I said, you have no right to do something like that. And she was like, oh, I didn't think of that. I said, yeah, you can't do stuff like that.
And a lot of times you'll have a demonic spirit that's keeping them in place so they can't leave.
Right.
So when you're trying to send that out, he could be assaulting that spirit.
And what happened when she'd come, she had an attachment because she did that. Because they were going into these cemeteries and they were playing these games and they were saying, hey, jump in her, let's see what happens. This is why we tell people, you need to be educated. It's not a game.
It's demonic forces a lot of times, if they don't harm you physically, they can destroy your life.
Right.
You say, I've had really bad luck. Well, it's not bad luck. You've got something causing bad luck.
Right.
It can affect your job. It can affect your health. It can affect your mental. It can affect your family. It can affect how people react to you or treat you.
Right.
These things can make a life miserable.
Yeah. And we're not all about scaring people and stuff. We just want to educate them and let them know, hey, you know what? And honestly, the energy has been so crazy lately. People have been calling. They saying things are happening. And, you know, we just have to educate people on what to do, you know. And if they do, they can, you know, email me at Paranormal Encounters, tv9@gmail.com. You know, Steve, is there anything else that people can do besides... You know, I always tell it's all about the intent. I tell people, if you put the intention out there, then that is huge. If you say, you know, like I do sometimes, if I'm investigating, I'll say, if I feel an energy or something that I'm not comfortable with, I say, Archangel Michael, please come down and escort the spirit to where it belongs. And it's easy as that.
It is. And we also have guardian angels with us that can help us too.
Right. Yeah. Right. And if you know the angels, or, you know, people believe just in angels and stuff, that's okay.
Yes, it is okay.
That's okay. Can you tell us about another case that, you know, is fresh in your mind that...
There was a case, I remember we had gone, I forget where it was, but they had animals. We have to bless the animals as well because the animals are very susceptible to attack.
Right.
But this woman had a horse.
Oh, I remember
And
that.
she said the horse was abused, so it's not going to come near a male. And I had to bless it. I said, well, I have to bless it. And we went over, the horse came over and bent its head down to get the blessing. Remember?
I remember that.
And that was a validation of that there's something else with us doing this.
Right.
And when we walked around the corral, it walked with us at each step to put the metals in the ground.
Right. That was crazy.
That was remember that? That was amazing.
But I mean, we've experienced so many different things together. We've had cases. We're still getting cases. We're still getting calls. And the good thing is now you even do it over just with prayers.
I can, yes.
I mean, prayers are just as powerful, and it's truly amazing that, you know, we've helped a lot of people just by, you know, having their names, their address, and just saying, you know, you believe we can, you know, help you, and, you know, you have to pray also.
Good point. They have to go halfway. If they're not going to be part of the recovery on it, then it's not going to happen.
Right.
If, I guess the big thing is if we go in and do a blessing, and it's sometimes, I've seen how you react when you're feeling the pain from the demon that's being removed. If we leave and you keep doing what you were doing that caused it, they're going to come back in worse.
Yeah.
A lot worse than the first one was. So instead of having a parakeet gnawing at you, you're going to have a gorilla.
Right. And what people don't understand, and this is what we tell them first thing, if we're going to be doing this blessing, you really have to not do anything, you know, to bring anything back.
Yes.
We've probably only had 2 cases where that they did bring that back.
Yes.
And that's when we can't help them, that they have to help themselves. I mean, we can to a certain point.
To a point, yeah.
But if they're going to continue to do it, it's twice as worse than
it's
what
better
it was
not
beforehand.
To do it.
You know, and talking about paranormal, I always tell people it doesn't have to be, because everybody says, well, my house is brand new. And I tell them,
could be the
it
land.
Doesn't have to be the house.
Yes.
It could be the land. It could be something that happened on the land. It could be an antique piece that you bring in.
Yes.
It can bring, you know, a picture, anything. If even from a secondhand store, I tell people, you know, if you've got to clear it.
I've also noticed if Uncle Joe, 300 years ago, was involved in the occult,
right,
that could be hereditary and passed down. They stay in families.
Right, and we had a case where
we've had those.
How about the woman that, you know, did the Ouija board while she was pregnant?
Yes,
and then the child was born and had issues with the spirit because it was attached.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was intense, and the only thing we had to do to fix that was the kid got baptized, and it ended it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we did get rid of the Ouija board, and
don't burn objects.
I know. I don't know why people say that. I tell them, break it into pieces,
Yes.
bless it, and bury it.
Yes. It can't resemble what it was before. The ground is sacred because it's created by the universe, by God.
Right.
So putting something in the ground protects it.
Yep. And how about that time when we were doing a case where doors were shutting, opening, and what it was is they had brought a piece from a house that had activity but didn't want it to be fixed. And come to find out it was that coffee table.
Yes.
That was causing...
That was the whole thing.
The whole thing. And we had to bless it and break it into pieces. You can't keep it in the same form.
No, it can't be the same form.
How crazy is that?
It's once the demonic attaches to it. I've even had priests say they won't accept things from a person because if it has an attachment, it's hard to get rid of that attachment.
Wow. So even so it really doesn't matter, you know, how if you get something from somebody, you know, you just have to clear it, bless it. Pray on it, something. If you get uneasy feelings, then you know maybe you shouldn't have that.
Yeah, one of the big things I think is once you do the blessing, you have to fill it with something else. If the demon's gone, you've got to bring the spirit in.
Right.
Something else has to occupy that space.
Right.
And usually when we pray, we designate it to God's glory.
Yeah.
And then they can't claim it anymore.
So what do you feel was like the most intense case that you did? Do you think it was that one when we first...
Yeah, that was...
I believe that too.
That was intense. I was exhausted after that.
I think, well, you've had so many repercussions. I mean, I remember your car. Your poor car.
They hate my car.
That you don't have anymore. Yes. Now you have one with like armor.
Something funny. My left rear wheel of that car kept getting the flats. I have a new car. Guess what happened?
What?
Nail my left rear tire.
Are you kidding?
No.
Oh my God. Already with that one?
Already, yeah. They already back on it. They hate my car.
And when did that happen? Did that happen recently or a while ago?
About 2 weeks ago. Because when we do prayers, like you said, without being there, it's still the same effect. And they still come out.
There's no time limit for them.
No.
It's like whenever they feel like it because they're upset or something.
Yes, like when that demon looked and it said, die, 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 and that glazed look in the eye, and that person wasn't there. They're very vengeful.
Yeah.
They have huge egos.
I'm telling you. I know I really wanted to get to the equipment part and to learn more, but we are running out of time. But I would love to have you back so we can talk about the equipment.
Oh, that would be awesome if you could.
I thank you so much, and I know that everybody learned a lot. And you know, if you have any questions, any problems, please email me at paranormalencounterstv9@gmail.com. And Steve, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on. It was awesome.
Great.
Thank you.